Okay, so he's got a couple of errors on page 143, and I found that out because on the website he's got something called errata. Remember that he's got tutorials and this and that, and all the way to the right, so it says errata. So I went in there and he was referring that on page 143, where he's got the patterns, okay? So what is a pattern? A pattern is nothing more than a regular expression, right? So on the software that we're using, on top of the accessors and the other guys, mutators, then you create things that go like this, right? And then this will be the, this is where you put the regular expressions over here, right on top of the methods, okay? And basically what he's saying is that the Hibernate database that we're going to be using on this chapter is kind of like a fake, not a fake, like a virtual database, because it allows you to read and write and create databases and create the columns and stuff like that in SQL, without knowing SQL, without using SQL, okay? In my opinion, in the real world, you need to know how to do SQL if you're doing stuff like this, right? Because what if you go to a place that they're using PHP? You're stuck, right? So the example that he gives over here is that he's using a MySQL file, the database, where he's accessing and they're putting data in there and writing and stuff like that using the Hibernate without knowing SQL, which could be an advantage if that's what you're going to do, you know, but if you really want to switch over to SQL, you're stuck. You have no idea how to do that, right? Okay, what else? Questions? Yes?
Not about this stuff today.
Huh?
Not about this stuff today.
No, okay, good. Let's keep it that way. So basically on when he's using the way you call it, the regular expressions mostly is to check, validate the data that is inside the beans, right? That's why you have to do it inside for the getters and the setters. You're validating the data before you process it. So if someone is doing the Social Security, okay, putting the Social Security in there, these guys, the regular expressions, will go ahead and validate that you actually put in the format of Social Security. The same situation with an email address. Okay, you actually, through a regular expression, you're validating the data that's coming in before you put it inside the database. So that's the idea of the thing. So I'm sure the paste and copy will do really good for us. And then we'll go, but at least if we understand what is the use for, what are they used for, and instead of just copying stuff that we have no idea what is there, now we know what it is, so we can actually go ahead and look at it and say, okay, so this guy validated social, this one a phone number, this one an address, whatever. Okay, so I got a little nice graphics in here somewhere that shows exactly what is happening. Very simple. So you have, remember the edit page that we always had, and also the confirm? So the edit, between the edit and the confirm, is doing the validation on the beans using the data. I always forget the name, regular expressions. I don't know why. Always had that problem. So on page 147, he's talking about the maps. And it looks very complicated, the code that he's got in there. And that's the code that he's got on his downloads, okay? So we can just copy and paste it, but we need to understand it. So basically, the way he has it, this is similar to something that we did in Java with array list. Remember array list?
Try to forget.
Yeah.
Trying to forget.
You're behind.
Where it is, okay. So there's a map utility called Java Pure Util Map, right? So just like on the array list, you have these guys that are these greater than and less than brackets. So over here you put the index, and over here you put the value.
Right.
Which one? These guys. Okay, so over here, what it has is the type of data. In this case, it's got a string. And over here, it's got the value that it's got is something called my being that he had declared before. Okay.
Professor,
Yes.
what's the heading on the application you read?
What's the heading on this?
Yeah.
Page 147 is, the heading actually is called Java Query Util Map. What happened, something like that?
No.
I think so.
The heat
I
supply?
think so.
It's like nice.
No.
Okay,
I think it's something you said.
something I said.
That means extra credit for everybody who's left.
Exactly, right. All right, then he goes here and talks about posting and gets. Anybody familiar with the posting and gets? Up to now, we've been using the gets. Okay? It automatically, when we go ahead and do, what is it, a form, right? Remember those guys that was on the test? Right? You trying to forget that too? And then you had something called action. And then it was the name of whatever you were trying to go to, either a controller or a JSP, right? See, you listened to me and you waited and did it, and you got those 2 points, so 4 points, otherwise you would have gotten a 0 there. You didn't want to do this. You're like, why not? Try it. And you got it right. So up to now, by not having anything over here, by default, it does the gets. Okay? And the gets is when you go into the column up on the address and you see hobby and then all of the data that you're going in there. So that's what the gets does. It actually allows the customer to see where you're transferring. So if you're transferring a social security number, that's bad news. Or if you put in a password in there, you're gonna see it right there on the line. So to avoid that, what the gets does is you need to put in there something called, I don't wanna make a mistake right here, okay? What is it? I lost it.
Page 149.
Post, method post.
Yes, a post, but I wanna make sure that I get the right code.
It's forms, method, post,
Method, right,
Yes.
Method is, right?
method,
Yeah, method
post.
equals post. So the difference between the gets and the post is that the post will take all of the data that you actually put in, the customer is putting in there, and you will send it one line after the rest of the stuff. The rest of the stuff will be like all of the information that you see on the line, okay? So by virtue of this line, anything that goes out after this line is not visible to the user. So you cannot go back into, the browser and go and see the history, okay? And this gets written into the history of the internet. These ones do not, okay? So it recommends that get used to using method equals post, because then all of you data, all your websites will be a lot more secure and be protecting the customer. That was page 156. How about that? Then he started on the SQL stuff that I talked about already. And then it says over here, okay, so it's time to go home. Okay, great. So we're gonna start.